Okay, imagine this for a second. What if your consciousness, your sense of you, wasn't actually tied to your body? What if you could just float up to the ceiling and look down at yourself sitting there, like you're just another person in the room? I know it sounds like something out of a movie, but for some people, this is a very real experience. So, what is actually going on when our mind seems to leave our body? Let's get into it. It's a pretty wild question, I get it, but if the answer is yes, you are definitely not alone. This whole phenomenon, what's known as an out-of-body experience, has fascinated people for, well, forever. It pops up in ancient philosophy, spiritual texts, and even in modern reports from patients who've been through something intense, like a stroke or a major accident. And it's way more common than you'd think. It turns out about 1 in every 10 people claims to have had an experience like this. So this isn't some super rare fringe thing. It's a genuine part of the human story that science is finally starting to figure out. So to be clear, what is an out-of-body experience, or an OBE? Well, it's defined as that really powerful, totally conscious feeling that your center of awareness, yourself, has detached from your physical body. You literally feel like you're seeing yourself in the world from somewhere else. And, this whole thing forces us to ask a really deep question. We all feel like we live inside our heads, right? Peeking out through our eyes. But is that feeling a fundamental truth, or is it just a really, really convincing story our brain is telling us? And that's the big mystery neuroscientists wanted to solve. Is our sense of self this solid, unchangeable fact, or is it more like a flexible perception that our brain is constantly building moment by moment? And if it is a construction, could you manipulate it? Could you trick it? To figure that out, scientists didn't jump right to the whole body. Nuh-uh. They started with something a lot simpler. It's a now famous experiment that showed just how easy it is to fool our brain's sense of what belongs to us. And this is it, the rubber hand illusion. The setup is genius in its simplicity. You hide your real hand from your own view, and a fake rubber hand is placed right in front of you. Then someone takes 2 paintbrushes and strokes both the fake hand and your hidden real hand at the exact same time in the exact same way. And after just a minute or so, something amazing happens. Your brain gets confused. It merges what it sees, the fake hand being stroked, with what it feels, your real hand being stroked, and creates this incredibly powerful illusion that the rubber hand is your own. So this is where it gets really interesting. This little trick with a fake hand sparked a huge question. If you can trick the brain into adopting a new hand, could you scale that principle up? Could you use that same idea of matching sight and touch to trick the brain into leaving the entire body behind? And this is how they tried it. In this absolutely brilliant experiment by a neuroscientist named Henrik Ehrson, they had people put on video goggles. But they weren't seeing a video game. They were seeing a live feed from a couple of cameras placed right behind them. So they were getting a third-person view of their own body. They were literally looking at themselves from outside themselves. Okay, so here's how they pulled off this incredible illusion. While the person is watching their own back on the screen, a researcher stands there with 2 rods. With one rod, they touch the person's actual chest, which is out of their line of sight. At the exact same time, with the other rod, they touch the chest of the illusory body that the person is seeing on the screen. And just like with the rubber hand, the brain does its thing. It merges what it sees with what it feels. It connects the dots and creates this bizarre, powerful sensation that their self is no longer in their body, but is now located a few feet behind it, watching. Now, the experience felt incredibly real to the people in the experiment. But was it just a feeling, or was the brain genuinely biologically fooled? They had to find a way to measure it. I mean, the participants were just stunned. You hear them laughing and saying things like, "Wow, this is so weird." They all confirmed it felt like they were literally sitting behind their own physical body, looking at it like it belonged to someone else. But hey, a good scientist needs more than just stories and feelings. To really prove that the brain had been tricked, they had to measure a real physical reaction. They needed cold, hard, objective proof. And this part is just so clever. To see if the brain really believed the illusion, they decided to measure its fear response. While the person was out of their body, the researcher pretended to swing a hammer at the illusory body. And what happened? The person's real body had a genuine stress reaction. They started to sweat, their skin conductance shot up.
And that physical fear response was way stronger than in the control groups, which proves the brain didn't just think the illusion was real, it felt it on a deep instinctual level.
So, where is all of this magic happening inside our heads? Well, research points to a specific spot called the temporoparietal junction, or TPJ for short. The best way to think of it is like the brain's reality mixing board. It's the hub that's constantly taking in data from your eyes, your sense of touch, your sense of balance, and mixing it all together to create the seamless feeling of where you are. When that region gets messed with by a stroke or epilepsy or even a clever experiment like this one, that connection between self and body can just break. Discovering this brain mechanism isn't just about explaining a weird feeling. It actually forces us to totally rethink the nature of our own consciousness and what we call reality. You see, for centuries, the main idea was something called mind-body dualism, the belief that your mind, or your soul, is this separate, non-physical thing that just kind of lives inside the machine of your body. But this research, it points to something completely different. It suggests that the self isn't a thing at all. It's a process. It's a flexible, constantly updated model of reality that your brain builds from all the sensory data pouring in every single second. And the implications of this are just huge. It means our sense of self is a construct, and that means it can be changed. This is already paving the way for mind-blowing, hyper-realistic virtual reality. It could lead to new therapies for people whose mental map of their body doesn't match their physical one. And get this, it might one day let a surgeon project their consciousness into a robot to perform an operation from thousands of miles away. All of this brings us right back to that basic, fundamental question of who we are. If that feeling of being me right here is just the product of a bunch of sensory calculations in the brain, what does that say about who we really are? The philosopher Thomas Metzinger absolutely nails it. He argues that what we call conscious experience is basically a virtual model of the world. It's a simulation running inside our brain, and it's so perfect, so seamless, that we don't even realize it is a simulation. We think we're touching and seeing actual reality, but we're always experiencing the brain's version of it. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. This research proves that your sense of self can be moved a few feet away with just a couple of cameras and some clever tricks. If the brain's model of where you are is that easy to edit, how much of your entire reality is just a story that it's telling you right now?